Well, hey there, guys. I'm Axel the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the ZeldaEngine.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. Our first question comes from Awesome. Okay, so I know you like Fi, but honestly, I thought she was a terrible character. I'm not even talking about her being annoying, I'm just talking about her character in general. Fi never develops throughout the story. Do you think Fi was underdeveloped as a character? You know, yeah, I actually definitely agree. Despite my liking Fi, I do agree that her character was handled very poorly, and the idea they had behind her character was only, settled at the end of the game, and throughout the game, the conclusion that the game ends with her character is never backed up, supported, nor established. So, yeah, her character is developed very terribly, and I think this is a very big missed opportunity for the game that I really wish they had improved, because it would have made her character even better. Black Raven 6695 asks, which of Link's companions is your favorite? Fi, ironically, despite that. I mean, I think she was a character of great missed potential, but she is still my favorite of the companions because I liked her personality, thought she was amusing, thought she was, you know, she was actually one of the more useful characters. Yeah, she said useless stuff, like, you know, telling you when you were low on hearts, as if the beeping sound wasn't enough. But she also, she was like Navi, in that she gave you a lot of information on the characters. I've always loved Navi and Tattle, because they were like an enemy encyclopedia almost. And if I did that even better. She's the single greatest source of information of all the characters in the series, and while there are a lot of mistakes done with her, I think she was the coolest character of them all. Ninlink asks, how do you feel about the Fire and Ice Prophecy games being fake? Were you looking forward to another duo of games like the Oracle ones? You know, all I really feel about it is, I told you so. You know, I immediately, when I heard about this, I knew fake. It just sounded fake to me. I was absolutely 100% certain, and when it was disproved, like, what, a day later, that's all I was thinking. But, you know, other than that, you know, I guess the idea of another duo would be cool, but that's not what I was thinking at any point when these were announced. I was just thinking, fake! Zachary asks, in Ocarina of Time on the start menu, the medallions go Light, Forest, Fire, Water, Spirit, and Shadow. But the dungeons go Light, Forest, Fire, Water, Shadow, then Spirit. Why is this? Well, I think the order's reversed is really a sign of one thing, that they intended a different order originally. That perhaps they intended the Shadow, Dark area to be the final area. But within the game, they decided to end with Ganondorf's hometown, more or less, his home turf with Twinrova. But, you know, you actually can do the Spirit Temple before the Shadow Temple. The game completely allows this. All you need is the Lens of Truth. So, yeah. A British Link asks, in the beginning of the Minish Cap, when you see Vaati for the first time when he's granted access to the bound chest that had a purple sword stuck in it, this sword appears to be in a similar position as the Master Sword at the end of Skyward Sword. Do you think that maybe the Master Sword and this purple sword are in fact the same sword? You know, there is some weird possibility that some crazy possibility exists that the Force Sword, or moreover the Picori Blade, is somehow related to or the same blade as the Master Sword. And this makes no sense, but the timeline strongly implies it. More the timeline than anything else, because the Minish Cap comes right after Skyward Sword, and the Minish Cap's backstory really seems like it was a bastardization of Skyward Sword's story. So it makes you think, are they the same blade? But that doesn't make any sense, so it's really unclear. Logically, they can't be the same blade, but it seems like there's so many seemingly intentional connections, so I really don't know what to make of it. NMG asks, why does Vaati only have a human form in the Minish Cap? Because he actually doesn't. He has 3 non-human forms. Star Wars 456 asks, do you think there will be a sort of prequel to Skyward Sword where it shows the goddesses making the world and a hero helping them? Yeah, you know, that would make a lot of sense. You know, during the creation of Hyrule, there's actually a 4th goddess. The original Link. The only other being who existed during Genesis to help the goddesses. Because, you know, this is the Genesis of Hyrule. It would be another Link. And it would be a female Link. And it would be the 4th goddess. Yes, this makes perfect sense. KV GameCube asks, what is your thoughts on the Legend of Zelda being in the new Super Smash Bros? What links would you like to see, and what would they do? I know personally I would like to see Girahim. You know, as for what they'll do, it's kind of hard to say because I think they're going to keep, you know, they're really probably going to keep Ganondorf, and they're probably going to keep Link, and, you know, probably Zelda and Sheik. But, you know, it'd be interesting, since, you know, like, Skyward Sword is a 25th anniversary game, you know, they made a big deal out of it, so I'd be kind of surprised if they didn't make some serious reference to it. Girahim would obviously be awesome. Maybe Link would have, you know, it would be Skyward Sword Link, and he'd have some more Skyward Sword flair, maybe Fi, instead of a fairy for his taunt. But as for like Zelda and Sheik, maybe they do Skyward Sword Zelda and Impa. You know, that'd be interesting. What they'll do, I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see them do some Skyward Sword stuff, and I think it's probable. Jetta Lusky 7 asks, do you think they should make a Legend of Zelda fighting game with almost every character, including the Links? Yeah, sure. You know, I've talked about how I think they should do this or that in Zelda games and not deviate. But as far as, like, spin-offs and side games, go crazy. You know, just do whatever. I've talked about, I think, a Zelda MMO game would be a great idea. So, you know, why not a fighting game? I mean, barring Smash Brothers, I think there's a lot you could do with it. I mean, I can imagine Soul Calibur-like combat. Maybe it could even be an arena fighting game with, like, different, you know, gameplay than a traditional fighting game, and it's something that controls a lot like Zelda. It'd be interesting to see them do stuff like this. Maybe it would be in another Four Swords game. Maybe they'd have a fighting mode, even if it's not really a fighting game. You know, they could do a lot of interesting stuff with it. Demon Lord asks, I noticed you don't agree with the theory that the city in the sky from Twilight Princess could be Skyloft from Skyward Sword. I personally think it's obvious that it is. My question is, why do you think that the two places aren't the same? Well, I guess to start it off, I'd ask the question of my own: what implies that they're the same? There's no traits in common between them other than, oh, they're in the sky. At which point you have to think about cloud tops, Vaati's palace. You know, there's so many elements in the Zelda series that are up in the sky. So why is the city in the sky the same? The Uka have no logical connection to either the Skyloftians or the Loftwings. They're completely different, and their origin stories are completely different, really. The Loftwings were made to protect humans after humans existed, and the Uka existed before humans and created the humans, supposedly. There's no logical connection, and the origins of both places is totally different. The city in the sky was built by the Uka after they went up, and Skyloft was raised up by the goddess to protect the humans, and probably, you know, I guess we don't know what happens to it in the end, but it makes no sense for them to be the same place. There's no real connecting factors other than a similar theme, and you can't connect on the similar theme alone unless there's more backing it up. Link93 asks, do you think the Temple of Time in Skyward Sword has any relation to the Temple of Time in Ocarina of Time? Not really, other than the kind of similarity in origin. I think really what we're looking at is the same culture, just at very different points in time, made both for kind of vaguely the same purpose. You know, the time travel, honoring their, you know, god or whatever, you know, things like that. They're odd, they can't be the same structure. Apparently, in Hyrule Historia, it indicates that the sealed temple is probably going to be the Temple of Time, you know, whatever. But, you know, at the very least, even if they're in the same place, they had to make a new building. So, yeah. The Outlaw Link asks, why is Tingle in Zelda's room in Skyward Sword? Well, you know, actually, a better question is actually why there is an infinitely replenishing supply of blue rupees in Link's cupboard. Mermuffy asks, I was wondering about how Skyward Sword has absolutely no villages on the surface. Do you think Nintendo should have made the races more civilized and included mini-villages on the surface? You know, not really. I think that they handled this pretty... I mean, I like the idea of the surface being just a dangerous, adventurous place, and then that the sky was the laid-back place of towns. I more think that there just should have been more towns in the sky. More stuff to do in the sky in general, and more houses, more people to see on different islands, things like that. Shadow Knight 1 asks, in your video about the Hyrule Historia timeline, you said it contained false information about the Temple of Time being the sealed temple. Your basis for this was that this Temple of Time wasn't in the Faron Province. How did you come to this conclusion when the Temple of Time was located near Faron Woods in Twilight Princess? Well, in Twilight Princess, they moved it. It makes no sense for it to be in, you know, in Hyrule Castle Town in Ocarina of Time, and then there in Twilight Princess. It's no logic to that. Other than maybe a retcon, but there's no necessary... I don't personally look at them as the same thing. I look at it as an unexplained reference to an older building that may or may not be the same. It's totally unclear to me, so I don't think you can draw a canonical connection, really. RMM342 asks, when playing Skyward Sword, I noticed the area where the final battle with Demise takes place looks exactly like the area at the end of Ocarina of Time when Zelda sends you back to your childhood. Do you think this connection was done on purpose? Do you think it's of any significance? It's not of any significance, and I think I think it's purely coincidental, really. It's just, you know, you're fighting in the sky. I mean, really, that fits Skyward Sword's whole theme perfectly. It's a sky-based game, so you fight the final boss in a sky area. I don't think it means anything other than that, and I don't think it's a very serious connection at all. Alright guys, that's it for this time. Be sure to send your questions to the contact page in the description, and I'll see you guys later.